The 1970s didn't just change America, it flavored it. If you grew up then, you remember, the kitchen smelled like casserole and convenience. Every dinner felt like an experiment. It was the era when food wasn't just eaten, it was invented. Frozen dinners that promised freedom. Cereal boxes that felt like Saturday morning treasure chests. Tang in every pantry because an astronaut said it was cool. And Jell-O? It wasn't dessert, it was decoration. Bright green, red, orange, molded into shapes you couldn't even name. You didn't think about calories, carbs, or clean labels. Food was color. Food was comfort. Food was connection. The 1970s table was loud, messy, and full of invention. Mom served hamburger helper with pride. Dad grilled steaks with too much lighter fluid. Kids drank Tab or Kool-Aid until their tongues turned purple. And there was always dessert, pudding cups, Twinkies, or that one mysterious pie from a box that somehow tasted like a dream. Every bite told a story about a country changing fast, chasing convenience, embracing fun, finding joy in flavor. Some of those foods are gone now, tucked away in faded cookbooks or lost commercials. But for a generation, they were the taste of home. Tonight, we're going back. Back to the kitchens, diners, and drive-thrus that defined the American appetite. These are the 15 iconic foods from the 70s, the ones that built memories, one bite at a time. If the 1960s were about change, the 1970s were about comfort. After a decade of chaos and headlines, America came home hungry, and the kitchen became the heart of everything again. The dinner table wasn't fancy, but it was full. Every night meant something warm, something shared, something that made life feel steady again. The 1970s weren't about gourmet. They were about good enough, quick, satisfying, familiar. Moms had jobs now. Dads worked long hours. Nobody had time to cook from scratch every night. But nobody wanted to give up family dinner either. So a new kind of magic took over the kitchen, the kind that came in boxes, cans, and frozen trays. Frozen dinners were no longer just for emergencies. They were a celebration. The aluminum trays, the mashed potatoes with a divot of butter, the gravy that touched everything. It was comfort that came straight from the freezer. You'd hear the oven door open, the hum of anticipation, the smell filling the room. Kids would peek through the window, waiting for the timer to ding. Swanson's TV dinners were everywhere. Salisbury steak, fried chicken, turkey, and stuffing. The little dessert section was always the prize, half melted, half perfect. You didn't question it, you just ate it. And for 20 minutes, life was simple. Then came hamburger helper. The name alone made dinner sound like a team effort. It was new, cheap, and foolproof. 1 pound of ground beef, 1 box, and a few cups of milk. You'd stir, you'd wait, and suddenly the kitchen smelled like something made from scratch, even though it wasn't. Kids lined up with plates. It wasn't about the recipe. It was about the ritual. Macaroni salad, tuna casserole, sloppy joes, all the foods that looked humble but hit the spot. Every dish was built for family tables that wanted togetherness more than perfection. You remember the colors. The avocado green mixing bowls, the burnt orange pots, the smell of onions and garlic sizzling in margarine, the clink of forks on Corelle plates. The way everything, absolutely everything, was served with either a can of Coke or a glass of milk. The pantry shelves were packed with boxes that defined the decade. Shake and bake, stovetop stuffing, rice aironi, canned corn, jars of instant gravy. Everything easy, everything ready. It wasn't laziness. It was survival. Families were changing. Moms weren't home all day. Kids had sports, school clubs, and TV shows to catch. Dinner had to fit between everything else. So convenience became the new tradition, and the advertisers knew it. Commercials sold warmth, not just food. Every box promised togetherness. Dinner in minutes, they said. So you have more time for what matters. And what mattered was sitting down, passing plates, talking, laughing, living. If you grew up then, you can still picture it. The kitchen table covered in a vinyl cloth with daisies, the radio playing soft rock, the smell of casseroles in the air. Food wasn't Instagram worthy, it was human. It filled bellies, not feeds, and dessert, always the best part. Jell-O reigned supreme. Lime green, cherry red, pineapple yellow, molded into rings, towers, and shapes no one could name. It jiggled, it sparkled, it made kids laugh. Moms got creative. Jell-O salads with fruit, nuts, whipped cream, sometimes even vegetables, because why not? It was the 70s. Pudding was another staple, not the kind that came in cups, not yet. The kind you made on the stove, stirring while it thickened. Chocolate, vanilla, butterscotch. Served warm in small glass bowls. That smell of real milk and sugar filling the house. On weekends, the menu expanded. Meatloaf with ketchup glaze. Pot roast with potatoes and carrots. Fried chicken so crisp it crunched under your fork. And always a side of something canned. Peas, green beans, peaches. The flavors of the 1970s were simple but strong. Every household had its signature dish. Some families had lasagna made from a Betty Crocker recipe card. Others swore by deviled eggs or ambrosia salad. Every potluck and block party was a showcase of who you were through what you made. The thing is, nobody saw it as nostalgic back then. It was just life. But now, looking back, you realize those dinners were the glue that held families together. You didn't sit in silence. You talked. You laughed. You passed the salt. You listened to your parents tell stories you didn't understand then, but you remember now. Even takeout had a different feel. Pizza Hut was new. It felt like a treat, not a habit. Sitting in those red vinyl booths, the smell of baking crust, the checkered tablecloths, the jukebox humming in the corner. You'd grab a slice, burn the roof of your mouth, and not care at all. And if you were lucky, someone would stop for drive-thru afterward. McDonald's in its golden age. Fries in paper bags that left your hands greasy. Milkshakes so thick you had to fight with the straw. Burgers that tasted better because you earned them. After school, after work, after a game. The food didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be there. That's what made the 1970s dinner table special. It was about being together when life was getting busier, louder, and more complicated. It was about taste, yes, but also about time. Time spent, time shared, time remembered. Now, when you see an old Swanson's box on eBay or a Jell-O ad in a vintage magazine, you don't just think of food. You think of family. You think of the clatter of plates, the hum of conversation, the comfort of something familiar in an uncertain world. Because that's what those meals gave us, something to hold on to. The 1970s were more than just dinner at home. They were the birth of the American snacking era. For the first time, food wasn't just about mealtime, it was about any time. The country was changing fast, and the way people ate changed with it. Kids came home from school to empty houses, parents worked longer hours, and the TV became the new dining room table. Snacks filled the gap. You didn't call it junk food, you called it fun. Every cupboard had a secret stash. Chips, cookies, crackers, and candies that made afternoons brighter and weekends sweeter. It was the decade of convenience, color, and crunch. You can still hear the sound, the rip of a chip bag, the fizz of a soda can, the clink of ice cubes in a glass. Every brand became part of the soundtrack of growing up. Doritos, Pringles, Funyuns, Ring Pops, Twinkies. They weren't just snacks. They were badges of childhood. Pringles changed everything. The can looked futuristic. A silver tube filled with identical chips that didn't break, didn't crumble, and stacked perfectly. The taste wasn't quite like real potatoes, but it didn't matter. It was something new. The sound when you opened the lid, that soft pop. It was the sound of promise. Doritos were wild by comparison. Real chips, bold flavor, orange dust that stained your fingers and your soul. The kind of snack that made you lick every crumb because nothing could be wasted. You'd eat them during cartoons, after homework, in the back seat of the car. You could taste the 1970s in every bite. Tangy, loud, confident. There were sweets too. Snacks that didn't just taste good but felt like small miracles. Ding-dongs, ho-hos, snowballs, Suzy Q's. Each one wrapped in foil, waiting like treasure. You'd unwrap slowly, saving the moment. Snack cakes weren't just food, they were currency. Trade a Twinkie at school and you could buy friendship for the day. That golden sponge, that creamy filling, it didn't matter if it was real or not. It was yours, and it felt like winning. Lunchboxes were shrines to the snack era. Metal ones painted with Star Wars, The $6 Million Man, or Charlie's Angels. Inside, a bologna sandwich, a small bag of chips, a thermos of milk or Kool-Aid, and the treat that made it all worthwhile. Maybe a little Debbie brownie, maybe a Hostess cupcake. That first bite was freedom from the long morning, and when you came home, the kitchen was waiting. Cereal boxes stacked like trophies. Fruit roll-ups hadn't come yet, but Pop-Tarts ruled the world. You'd slide one into the toaster, the sugar crackling, the smell filling the air. Strawberry, cinnamon, chocolate fudge, flavors that made mornings feel like playtime. Even cereal itself became a snack. You didn't need milk. You just poured it straight into your hand. Lucky Charms, Cap'n Crunch, Count Chocula. Every box had a toy hidden inside. You'd dig your hand deep into the bag, ignoring the crumbs, searching for that plastic ring or mini spaceship. It wasn't breakfast anymore. It was discovery. Soda became the sidekick to all of it. Tab for the grown-ups. 7-Up for the kids. Pepsi and Coke battling for loyalty. The cans were thick, the logos bold, the taste sharper than today's sweetness. You'd crack one open, hear that hiss, and it felt like summer even in December. And Kool-Aid? That was the drink of the people. Powder poured into pitchers, stirred with wooden spoons, stained everything it touched. Red fingers, purple lips, that giant smiling pitcher bursting through walls and commercials yelling, "Oh yeah." Every kid wanted that energy. Every parent secretly rolled their eyes but kept making more. Snack time became social time. It wasn't just about eating, it was about belonging. After-school hangouts meant chips and soda. Movie nights meant popcorn in metal bowls. Road trips meant pretzels, peanuts, and car seat crumbs that never disappeared. Then came the vending machines. Every office, school, and rec center got one. The clank of the coins, the whir of the spiral turning, the fall of the candy bar, that tiny moment of joy. For kids, it was power. You didn't need an adult. You could buy happiness yourself, and fast food joined the game. McDonald's started selling apple pies that burned your tongue but made you smile. Burger King launched onion rings with dipping sauce that tasted like rebellion. And the Golden Arches weren't just a restaurant, they were an event. Birthdays, first dates, family drives. You'd walk in, smell the fries, see the bright red booths, and know exactly where you were. Snacks defined the rhythm of American life. Commercials played during every cartoon break, shouting colors and flavors at full volume. Tony the Tiger, the Kool-Aid Man, the Pillsbury Doughboy, they weren't just mascots. They were friends. You can still picture it, a Saturday morning in 1977, cartoons blaring, pajamas still on. A bowl of sugary cereal balanced on your knees. Milk dripping, laughter in the air, sunlight peeking through the blinds. It was simple. It was safe. It was sweet. Parents might have worried about sugar, but they didn't worry much. Kids were outside all day. They burned it off on bikes and creeks at the park. The world felt wide open, and every snack break felt like a reward for being alive. Looking back, those snacks did more than fill stomachs. They shaped culture. They taught brands how to speak to kids, how to sell happiness, how to make flavor feel like freedom. The snack boom wasn't just marketing genius. It was emotional engineering. It gave a generation its identity. The flavor stuck. The jingles still live in your head. The slogans never really left. You can still hear them. Bet you can't eat just one. They're magically delicious. Once you pop, you can't stop. You're not you when you're hungry. These weren't just ads. They were the rhythm of your youth. And even now, when you walk down a store aisle and see a bright red bag of Doritos or a shiny can of Pringles, you feel it. That spark. The same one you felt when you tore open a bag of chips as a kid and the whole world smelled like salt and freedom. Snacks gave you control in a world that was growing up too fast. They gave you comfort when things felt uncertain. And most of all, they gave you joy that didn't need a reason. The 1970s made America a snacking nation. And that habit, that love for quick, easy, flavorful pleasure, never left. It just evolved, but nothing since has ever tasted quite like that first handful. By the time the 1970s hit full swing, something was stirring across America. The kitchen was still sacred, but another kind of meal was starting to rise. One that came wrapped in paper, served in minutes, and eaten in cars. Fast food wasn't new, but in the 70s it became something bigger. It became a lifestyle. You didn't need a reservation or a recipe. You just needed $1, an appetite, and a craving for that smell. The kind that drifted from golden arches, neon crowns, and spinning red buckets across every highway. The fast food revolution didn't just feed America, it changed it. Families who once gathered around the table began gathering in cars. Teenagers found independence under glowing signs. Workers on the go found their lunch in drive-through lanes. And everywhere, those paper wrappers, greasy, simple, perfect, became symbols of the new American appetite. McDonald's was the king of it all. By the 1970s, it wasn't just a restaurant, it was a ritual. Every kid knew the jingle. Every adult knew the taste. The golden fries, the Big Mac with its special sauce, the Filet-O-Fish on Fridays. Each one had its own kind of memory. The commercials made it feel personal. Smiling families, red trays, happy meals, a new idea that turned food into fun. You didn't just eat at McDonald's. You belonged there. Then came Burger King, bold and proud, telling America, have it your way. It wasn't about following the rules. It was about customizing them. Extra pickles, no onions. Flame grilled, not fried. It was rebellion served in a sesame seed bun. KFC was another empire on the rise. The Colonel's face was everywhere, on buckets, on commercials, on billboards. Finger-licking good wasn't just a slogan, it was truth. That crispy golden crust, that smell of fried chicken in cardboard buckets, it filled homes, parks, and picnic tables across the country. And Pizza Hut, that was dinner with a twist. The red roof, the jukebox, the stained glass lamps, the checkered tables. Pizza wasn't fancy anymore. It was family. It was youth. It was the taste of togetherness you didn't have to cook. Taco Bell started spreading too, serving up something different. Tacos, burritos, nachos, flavors most Americans had never tasted before. It wasn't authentic, but it was exciting. It was flavor you could hold in one hand. A&W had root beer floats. Dairy Queen had cones that twisted and dipped. Wendy's came along with square burgers and fresh slogans. Fast food was multiplying, evolving and claiming space in every small town, every highway exit, every mall. The drive-thru changed everything. You didn't even have to get out of the car. Just roll down your window, place your order, and within minutes, you were handed a warm bag that smelled like happiness. It felt modern, efficient, almost futuristic. For parents, it was convenience. For kids, it was freedom. You can still remember the sound of the paper bag crinkling in your lap, the warmth of fries seeping through, the first bite of a burger, so familiar it tasted like safety, the way the car filled with the smell of salt and grease and comfort. It wasn't about food. It was about feeling. Because the 70s were hard in some ways. Inflation, gas shortages, political tension. families working harder than ever to stay afloat. Fast food offered something America desperately needed: small, affordable joy. A meal for everyone, no matter where you came from. It was democracy in a bag. Kids loved the toys, the colors, the mascots. Ronald McDonald, the Hamburglar, Grimace? They weren't just ads. They were icons. A child's first celebrity crush, their first laugh-out-loud moment on TV, and adults? They loved the price, the predictability. No surprises, no mess. Just food that always tasted the same, in every city, every state, every stop along the way. Road trips changed, too. Suddenly, highways were dotted with signs, golden arches glowing through the night, Colonel Sanders waving from billboards, the smell of fries pouring out of vents. Families pulled over not just for gas, but for burgers. The car became the new dining room. Paper napkins instead of cloth, soda cups instead of glasses. The steering wheel became a table, and the world outside became the backdrop. Every fast food stop meant something. Friday nights after football games, Saturday afternoons after chores, Sunday drives after church. Each moment bookmarked by fries, shakes, and laughter. Even the packaging had its charm. The styrofoam burger boxes that clicked shut. The little fry cartons with grease spots. The paper cups with those bold red and orange stripes. Every detail burned into memory. The flavors were simple but unforgettable. Salt, sugar, fat, the holy trinity of comfort. And in the 1970s, no one felt guilty about it. You earned your meal. You worked hard. You treated yourself. That's what made fast food powerful. It wasn't just convenient. It was emotional. It represented possibility. The idea that you could drive anywhere, stop anywhere, and find something that felt like home. And it shaped how Americans thought about food forever. Before the 1970s, dining out was rare. After the 1970s, it was routine. The restaurant wasn't a luxury anymore. It was part of everyday life. Fast food became the great equalizer. Didn't matter who you were or what you earned. Everyone ate under the same signs, at the same tables, from the same menu. It was the taste of unity, in a country that often forgot how to stay together. Looking back now, those drive-thrus and diners weren't just businesses. They were landmarks. They defined towns. They marked childhoods. They shaped habits that still linger today. Even as menus changed, logos evolved, and health warnings grew, the core remained. That feeling of pulling into a lot, seeing the lights, and knowing exactly what you were about to taste. The 1970s created America's fast food identity, one built on speed, flavor, and a touch of innocence. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And maybe that's why, all these years later, nothing hits quite like a fry from your childhood or the scent of a drive-thru on a summer night. The world moved faster. But for a moment, every paper bag of food made it stop. Just long enough to take a bite and remember that life, sometimes, could still be that simple. By the end of the 1970s, America had built an entirely new language of taste. Food wasn't just something you ate, it was something you remembered. Every flavor carried a story. Every brand had a personality. Every bite could take you somewhere familiar. You can still taste it if you close your eyes. The tang of Tang, the orange drink that astronauts drank in space. The fizz of Pepsi poured over ice in a tall glass. The creamy sweetness of Cool Whip melting on top of Jell-O. The smoky salt of a backyard hot dog, turning slowly on a small aluminum grill. The 1970s were about flavor that felt like home. Breakfast had its heroes. Pancakes cooked in butter on electric griddles. Aunt Jemima syrup dripping down the sides. Eggo waffles toasted golden and stacked high. Saturday mornings were made of these moments. Cartoons on the TV, syrup sticky fingers, and the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen. Then there was cereal, the great American obsession. By 1979, there were more than 100 kinds on the market. Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, Cocoa Pebbles, Trix, Cap'n Crunch. Every one of them bright, colorful, and loud. The milk at the end of the bowl was a treat of its own, sugary, flavored, and perfectly cold. Lunch meant sandwiches. Bologna with mustard, peanut butter and jelly on white bread, tuna salad with celery, wrapped in wax paper, tucked into a metal lunchbox, eaten under the sound of a school bell. You didn't need much, just something simple and made with love, and dinner, as always, was about togetherness. The flavors of the 1970s were made to share. Pot roast, meatloaf, baked ziti, stuffed peppers. Nothing exotic, but everything familiar. The spices were minimal: salt, pepper, garlic powder, paprika. But the comfort was infinite. It wasn't about technique. It was about connection. If you visited any small American town in the 1970s, the local diners told the whole story. The neon signs, the smell of coffee and bacon, the waitresses who knew your order before you spoke, the jukebox playing American Pie in the corner. Every plate came with toast and hash browns, and every meal felt like it could last forever. Desserts were a category all their own. Unforgettable, indulgent, sometimes strange. Baked Alaska, pineapple upside-down cake, cream pies topped with canned whipped cream, bundt cakes shaped like rings of celebration. Even Jell-O salads counted as dessert in some homes. shimmering towers of fruit and color that wobbled proudly on every table. There was something magical about those flavors, something real, not fancy, not healthy, but real. Because the 1970s weren't about presentation, they were about presence, sitting down, sharing, laughing, eating until you couldn't eat anymore, and still saving space for pie. The decade was full of small innovations that changed everything. Ranch dressing appeared for the first time. Hidden Valley made it a household name. Suddenly, salads weren't just lettuce and tomato, they were flavor explosions. Every bite had crunch and tang. Velveeta became the secret weapon of home cooks. It melted perfectly, coated everything, made casseroles and mac and cheese irresistible. It was comfort in a block. Campbell's soups, cream of mushroom, tomato, chicken noodle, turned into ingredients instead of meals. Mixed into casseroles, poured over pasta, baked into recipes that moms shared like heirlooms, and for many, Kraft was the name of childhood. Kraft cheese slices, Kraft mac and cheese, Kraft salad dressing. You saw that logo and you trusted it. Frozen desserts brought a kind of wonder to every freezer. Sara Lee cakes, cool whipped tubs, frozen pies you just had to thaw. There was no guilt, no shame, just joy. Then came the revolution of flavor that still echoes today, the rise of American branding around taste. Products didn't just tell you what they were, they told you how they wanted you to feel. A Coca-Cola wasn't just a drink, it was happiness. Pepsi wasn't just soda, it was youth. Hershey's wasn't just chocolate, it was love. And that's what the 1970s really did to food. It turned it emotional. Every bite was a connection. To family, to childhood, to a country that was learning how to comfort itself. The television helped too. Commercials weren't just ads. They were memories being written in real time. Jingles you could hum for years. Smiling faces you'd never forget. You deserve a break today. Things go better with Coke. Wouldn't you rather have a Whopper? Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Each line was a key to a time when the world felt both bigger and smaller, when the corner store could still feel like the center of the universe, and through all of it, flavor tied everything together. Even now, when you taste something close to those old recipes, when you smell fried onions, or the sweetness of butter melting into corn, something stirs inside you, a flicker of memory, a warmth that doesn't belong to the present. The truth is, the food of the 1970s wasn't just about hunger. It was about hope. It was about believing in small comforts, about finding joy in routine, about savoring what you had, not longing for what you didn't. It was America's way of saying, we made it through another day. Let's eat. You might not cook the same way anymore. You might not drink Tang or eat Salisbury steak or spread margarine on toast. But you remember how it felt. And maybe that's what really matters. Not the flavor itself, but the memory it leaves behind. Because the 1970s gave us something that still lives in every kitchen today. The idea that food isn't just fuel, it's connection. It's identity. It's nostalgia served warm. And maybe, when you think back to those years, to the TV dinners, the casseroles, the soda cans, and the cereal boxes, you realize something powerful. The best flavors aren't just tasted. They're remembered. Maybe it's the smell that brings it back. Or the sound of a soda can cracking open. Maybe it's a bite of something simple that pulls you home again. Whatever it is, it reminds you. Some flavors never fade, because food is memory. And the meals of the past aren't gone. They're waiting, tucked in old recipes, in commercials you can still hum, in the kitchens where your story began. Next time, we'll travel a little further, to the diners that disappeared, the ones that fed America's heart before the world sped up. You might even recognize one or two from your own childhood. And if you'd like to keep these stories close, I've tucked a small collection of forgotten recipes and memories into our free nostalgia newsletter. A simple way to taste yesterday, one bite at a time, because the past isn't gone. It's right there, still warm, still waiting.